Hello, I'm here with Chris Collins. Chris, I'm so happy that you're here. Chris is the Vice President and Managing Partner for People to Go in Toronto, Canada. And we are here today to talk about his journey through the Resilient Transformation Academy. Chris, I am so happy that you're here to share what you have gone through in this transformation that we have been working together for about 6 months now. And for those that are listening, I'd love for you to share a little bit about how you were before you and I began working together. Like, what were you experiencing in your life? Maybe some stress, sleepless nights, just kind of give those that are watching a little bit of an indication of how you were before you and I began working together.
Well, I was working about 90 to 100 hours on any given week. Very rarely took any breaks or holidays, so I didn't have much time to decompress. Physically, I felt I was suffering through extreme muscle tension and lack of mobility, which did cause a decent amount of discomfort and pain, which I just pushed through. I started feeling fatigued, very, very tired. I sleep very poorly. Prior to the program, I was sleeping on a good night, 3-4 hours per night. Then my mood was up and down. I was prone to times of extreme frustration, anxiety, anger, disappointment. Negative emotions at times were overwhelming to deal with. And I generally just felt really, really burnt out. Just before I joined the program, I had hit a wall. I was pushing myself way too hard. I wasn't giving myself enough break or time to decompress. And I allowed my drive and ambition to grow my business to affect my action and behavior. So I had literally hit the wall where I stopped caring about a lot of things, very unlike me. So that was the cry for help for me.
Wow, hit the wall and stop caring about things. And then you said you were getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. Was that affecting your work performance?
It was, to what degree, I'm not 100% sure, but I saw a sleep doctor many times. And he basically said that at most, I was at 70% of my mental and physical capacity based on my sleeping patterns over an extended period of time. So rather than look at that as a negative, I looked at that as a positive, that I could improve my performance, my productivity, if I focus on sleeping much better than I was. So that was one of the reasons why I happily joined the program.
Yeah. And, when you said that you were just fatigued and that you were in moods, not only did it affect your work, did it affect your relationships at work and at home?
I think for the most part, I did a pretty good job of varying that. I've gotten good at that over the years. However, I definitely was prone to some temperamental moments. We all are emotional beings, and I typically do a reasonably good job of keeping that contained. But I definitely felt more frustrated on a personal level than I did on a professional level. And that was very disconcerting. I have a young son, my wife, my dog. Little things would irritate me, right? Just trying to get 5 minutes to myself to do something simple and decompress became something much more challenging for me.
Well, what did you try in the past to fix those problems?
Well, a number of things. I have a self-care plan. It took me far too long in life to figure out the benefits of that, but I like to do weight training. When I'm lifting weights, that's my time where I decompress. Cardio, just looking after myself physically. I love to read, which is something I haven't done for a very, very long time, which, quite frankly, weighed very heavily on me. I was meditating, although that was a bit of a struggle for me as well. I always had thoughts, often intrusive thoughts, coming into my mind at any given time, and I found it very difficult to relax and decompress. So these were some of the things I was doing. Seeing a therapist as well, so talking it out. That was helpful, but it's a process that takes a long time.
Yeah, so you were going through a lot when you and I first came together, and I know that you had tried some different things to overcome a lot of these things. So when you and I first started working together, Was there anything that you tried that you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure if this is going to work for me or not, or any thoughts that you had about, I'm not sure if this is the right path for me?
Honestly, not really. I came into this with a very open mind. I had to, right? If I had preconceived notions about what may work and what won't work, I wouldn't get the most out of the program. So when I came into this, as you probably recall, I said, I'm going to give this 1,000%. And that's the only way I know. So, I did. I came into this very objectively and with an open mind and open heart, and just absorbed as much of it as I could right off the bat. And the results in the first 3 or 4 weeks were pretty remarkable, all things considered, which just became extremely motivating. And I doubled down on that. I worked harder and smarter to do more of what was feeling good and feeling right.
A lot of executives will go through trainings and they may get some information that might make an impact on them for a day or two, but it doesn't really stick. And what I noticed in working with you is that level of commitment and that 1,000% that you were putting into it. And a lot of people might say, yeah, well, what kind of results did you get in the first 2 weeks? So you said 2 or 3 weeks, you saw some big changes. What happened for you in the first 2 to 3 weeks?
I started sleeping better for the first time. I had been living off sleeping pills for as long as I can remember. This goes back to my teenage years. So you get so used to not sleeping well that it just becomes part of your day-to-day routine. However, as mentioned, I was extremely motivated to improve my productivity, improve my performance at work, and be a better father, better husband, just do everything better. So I needed to sleep more. I needed to relax and decompress, and so I started sleeping better, and I did so organically without pills, just practicing the techniques in the program, and was very committed to making sure that I could maximize everything I learned throughout.
One thing I remember too, when we were working together, as you were sleeping better, you were ending up having more energy. And like you said earlier, you're at 70% of your capacity and you were looking to fix your sleep, but looking to fix your sleep in all these different ways that weren't working. So when you started with the program, what we really talk about is changing from the inside out. So instead of looking for a pill to take to help us sleep or looking for something that will change our sleep habits, you were changing what was happening inside of your body. And as you change what happened in your autonomic nervous system, your body began to relax a little bit more. And I remember distinctly you talking about how much muscle tension you used to have because you had a high level of stress. Will you share with the audience a little bit about what you experienced from relaxing your muscles and having that muscle tension go away?
Well, there's a couple things really. I have a lot more mobility in different parts of my body. Um, I see a physiotherapist weekly. I see a chiropractor weekly, massage therapist bi-weekly. I now have to see them a lot less because the transformation over the last 6 months has been very significant. When the medical professionals or healthcare professionals tell me that they can see a significant reduction in my muscle tension and added mobility that just wasn't there before, that's obviously very important. But I was feeling great. I was feeling strong. I was training harder than I was before. I was able to push myself harder when I was lifting weights, and I wasn't breaking down. So I was able to maintain consistency in different elements of my self-care plan. But I had lived my life for so long with that muscle tension and lack of mobility that it did some serious damage over time. And I wish I would have known about a program like this years and years ago, but it gave me added motivation to put everything into it when we kick things off. And I think that's part of the reason that I had such positive results, is I went into it with a very positive mentality, with an open mind and open heart, and fully embraced the teachings and learnings and all the different techniques that you taught us. And within a very short period of time, I started recognizing the benefits of that. So you got to put the work in to get the results ultimately, right? And I'm confident that I did that.
You absolutely did do that. I mean, you really came in and you had spreadsheets of what you were doing and tracking all the different techniques and tracking your emotional intelligence along the way, tracking the biofeedback device. And you just really, really jumped in a big way. And I noticed too that you always chose to improve. You always said, okay, I got that score. I'm going to get a better score next time. I'm going to get a better score this time. And so in doing that, you started to see all these things that took place on the outside. Your relationships you talked about at work. The other thing that you talked about is you hadn't taken a vacation in a long, long time. And within the last 3 months, I think you took a week vacation and didn't work at all. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
So first time you've taken a vacation and didn't work. Can you talk a little bit about that and a little bit about how you move from having to work all the time to being able to fully relax and not even work while you were on vacation? Like, how did you get to that point?
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge that I've done this to myself. Nobody forces me to work the hours I do. This is my responsibility. And again, my drive and ambition to help the people in my company grow and the business grow itself is very strong. I put way too much pressure on myself to succeed. And I needed a bit of a wake-up call. And I needed to find some level of balance in my life, which was desperately missing. That was one of the key things I spoke to you about in the very early days, is that I'm going 1,000 miles an hour 100% of the time, and I can't decompress. So after practicing the techniques for about 4.5, 5 months, I was extremely confident that I could step away from work. Everything was going to be fine. My people are very well trained. They operate very independently, efficiently, and effectively. So I really didn't have anything to worry. But all the things that I usually would have pressured on myself to do while I was on vacation, I just let it go. And there was no problem doing so. I'm reasonably confident that if I hadn't participated in the program, I would have fallen into the same trap I had before, where I would try to decompress a little bit on my downtime. But one way or the other, I would have been thinking about work and trying to do something productive to move the company forward. But for 7 days, 7 nights, I didn't think about work at all. And everything was fine. And I felt great. I got to spend quality time with my family, which was the ultimate objective. I felt very regulated emotionally, physically, mentally. And what more can you ask for after the way I've lived my life for as long as I have?
Wow. I think you really just summed it up, that you felt balanced and regulated physically, mentally, and emotionally. And those are three of the main domains that we work in: physical, mental, and emotional. So the fact that you were able to balance that and regulate that just says so much about how your life has transformed from where you were to where you are now. So how are you going to use these techniques moving forward?
Well, I already am. I mean, I started using some of the techniques from the very early days, not just with myself, with my son, with my wife, with my coworkers. I mean, the green light language in particular. I'm a big proponent of the power of the subconscious mind, right? And when people approach things more pessimistically, I'm not going to be successful, this isn't going to work, then in my experience, more often than not, you don't get the desired outcome, whether it's personal or professional. So I'm a glass half full guy. I always look at things optimistically, but I'm pragmatic at the same time. And, the green light language in particular was something that, I used beyond myself, when I still do today. Right? So I think, part of the program is training not just the conscious, but the subconscious mind to operate a certain way. And if it's focused on desired outcomes and how you're going to achieve those outcomes and do so in a very methodical and structured way, then there's not much you can't accomplish.
Beautifully said. So for people that might be listening right now, is there anything that you would share with them, or like if you were talking to a friend about the program, if they were experiencing stress, anxiety, overwhelm, not sleeping well, maybe those internal negative thoughts that are happening, anything that you could explain to them in a way that would make sense?
Well, I'll say that the simple thing is you're not alone. I think most people don't realize how many people are affected by this. Keep an open mind. Yes, there's different programs out there. There's different, modems, versions of therapy you can go for. But I think you need to just be bold and recognize that you have to make a change in your life, for the good of yourself, your family, maybe your coworkers, your job, whatever it may be. But you have to acknowledge that there's a problem first and foremost. And you've got to do something constructive about it, and I've done other types of therapy before. They help to a certain degree, but they didn't tie the physical, the emotional, and the mental together. And this program does. So I think that that was the competitive advantage I certainly recognized very early on. Was it was also very science-based too. So it wasn't just theory oriented, it was educational, created a tremendous amount of awareness and understanding. And feeding off the group, sessions we had as well was very important for me, as it was for others. I think you've seen that there's a bond that's formed with some of us. We live in different parts of the world, but we're all there for the same reason for the most part, that we're tired, we're fatigued, we're stressed out. And we were able to develop a lot of positive energy, and it was really great vibes. And everybody has come a very long way since I've been in the program, and I'm as proud of them as I am of my own accomplishments thus far.
It's really fun to watch people come such a long way, isn't it? Especially when we're doing it together and we're sharing those positive success stories, and we're seeing each person transform as they come into the program. So Chris, I can say that it has been an absolute pleasure to work with you. Your level of dedication and commitment has really had you have the transformation that you've had. So thank you for sharing your journey with those that are listening. And I appreciate you being in the program, and we will talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.